We're going to take a look at what happened to Victoria's real estate sales in 2023. Let's take a look. First of all, we want to take a look at how many properties are we talking about, and what kind of properties. So let's take a look on the upper left part of the screen there. You can see that there's an approximation of amount of homes. So roughly 25% of the homes sold in Victoria were, that price or less, and then so on and so forth. So that's about 25% of all the sales. Second of all, we're going to do all property types. We could do single family, townhouse, condo, or a combination, but we don't want to do that. And the reason we don't want to do that is because it's when we have such a small finite area, we don't want to mess up the numbers by breaking it down too much. And then last but not certainly least is construction. Previously owned is what we're going to go for, because when we look at new construction, it skews a lot of things. I love new construction. I think it's fantastic. However, it doesn't easily compare with existing homes. And there's been a whole lot of new construction in the Victoria area over the last, let's say, 8 or 10 years, and certainly the last 20 years, which is in baked into that value. So let's just take a look. Now, this is the median sales price for what is currently happening, and this is a monthly read. Now there are different ways we can look at this, but when we look at the monthly, we look at last month, for instance. What was the median sale price of a home in Victoria? The answer is 535,000. In the Twin Cities, by the way, and I put that up there for context, it was $331,500. Now, if we go back in time a little bit and we actually take a look at December of 2022, we can see that the year started with the median sale being 556. So it is just a touch lower now. And if you're thinking, oh my goodness, it's lower, that's really, really bad, maybe kind of sort of, but there's a number of reasons why. And of course, because we're in Victoria, the numbers are a little skewed because it's just a small geographic area. So we can see that the prices have gone up, and then, kind of peaked out as the median for Victoria peaked out in April of last year at 657, and then, coming down again. And then, this is kind of the winter slump, so to speak, for pricing. And again, this is median, which median doesn't mean average. It doesn't, you have 20 homes and you add them all up and then you divide by 20. It's half of the homes sold for more than 535,000, half of the homes sold for less than 535,000. That's a median. So let's take a look at other pricing things before we look at the volume. If we look at pricing, we go back to, let's say, the December of 2022, because it is not yet, I don't know if you can see the date above me, but today is the 31st of January, and we're not going to actually have January's numbers for a few more days. But if we look at December of 2022, the median price per square foot being sold in Victoria was $169. And, in the Twin Cities, it was actually a touch more, which is pretty rare when it's, going to be, different than that. And then last month, or the last full month that we have numbers for, it was up to $181 a square foot. So if you actually look at that, it shows you that the average home median in Victoria, I almost got caught up on that, was selling at $181 a square foot last month, or at the very end of last year. And that is very, very healthy. It's very healthy. Another thing that we want to look at is the speed of sales. How fast are homes selling in Victoria? And the answer is fast. How many showings on the median does it take to sell a home in Victoria? And the answer is, let's see, right now, as of last month anyway, it was 7. It took 7 showings to have a house go pending. Now, pending is when the home is sold but not closed. But it's also when there is no more inspection contingency, if there was an inspection contingency, because there may not have been. So if we slide back and we look at December of 2022, it was 8 days. So it was 8 days a little over a year ago, and then it fluttered up and down. And of course, Victoria is the red and the Twin Cities is the blue here, but it fluttered down, and mostly down. I mean, my goodness, look at that. And then it kind of peaked out at 11 showings. So in August of 2023, and I don't know if you remember that, but that was when interest rates, were fluctuating higher, and then they, went even higher, but it still was only 11 showings before a home was sold, which is incredibly rapid. So that provides us with a big clue that homes are selling that are properly prepared and properly priced at a very, very good clip in Victoria. I do want to take a look at a couple of other things that will help put it in perspective. And again, this one's really skewed because it's Twin Cities versus Victoria, but to just show you how few homes we're talking about, um, you know, because I think that gives context. And this was, back in May of 2020, Victoria maybe had 30, 35, 40 homes for sale at the very most. And then it went, goes down every season, of course, because, nobody really wants to move in the winter, right? And then kind of peaking, but you can see the peak here, 24 and 21, and in the 30s, before, and then so go down again, and then just a few homes on the market, and then peaking again, and then going down again, and then peaking again. But overall, every year we've had just a little less homes for sale in during the peak years, which is because less people are moving on average, and or they're staying in their home longer. It's kind of the same thing, but six of this and half a dozen of the other. So if we actually look at homes for sale, we don't have very many homes for sale in Victoria right now. We have nine as of last month. So it puts things again into perspective. That's all types, single family, condo, townhome, and uh, you know, condo, townhome, single family. That's all of them. Okay. So anyway, shows depending, days on market, days on market is okay to look at, but in the end, what really matters is shows depending. The interesting thing that I am not necessarily concerned with, but I definitely want to make sure that people understand is last year in Victoria, there was a pretty big spike in supply. Um, and there's probably no one that can give the right answer, but because of the smallness of the market, it is highly likely that there was just a number of homes that were on the market that were not priced properly, or they were not conditioned properly, meaning they didn't prep them for sale and they weren't as shiny as they could have been to reach the maximum amount uh, you know, of people to come and buy them. Now, if we juxtapose that with how few showings it takes to sell, or it took to sell a home, 8, 10, 11 showings to get to pending, that tells us that yes, there was more homes on the market, and yes, there was enough for the buyers to be satisfied, because they are looking at a 3-month supply, and right now we're looking at let's see, what is it, a point 8% supply. What does that tell you? And of course, obviously, a lot of this is seasonal. However, it also means that when a seller puts a home on the market, it does need to be properly prepared and properly priced. So just saying, "Well, I'd really like X number of dollars for a home," isn't a good option for a number of reasons, because the market will generally pay um, the most when it's has the most amount of activity in the first few weeks. After that, it starts to drop off pretty precipitously. So long and short of it is that during last year's interest rate increase, and it spiked pretty precipitously, very rapidly, during this time, uh, it was caused a lot of difficulties in the marketplace, and Victoria was no exception. And because a lot of Victoria's housing stock that was selling was, 6 years old, 8 years old, maybe 10 or 12 years old, there was a lot more expensive homes and a lot bigger homes that were selling. And buyers in that category were really getting pinched with the interest rate increase, going dramatically from, fours and fives to sixes and even into the sevens, which really caused a lot of that. But even with all that said, Victoria has had a fantastic year. 2023 was a great year, but it wasn't a ridiculous year for sellers. Buyers were actually able to make some negotiations, and which was a good thing for buyers. And this year, the 2024, so far, it's really kind of starting like last year did, which is very few homes on the market at this time. There will be more and more homes coming on the market very, very soon, which, in my experience, magically starts to happen shortly after the Super Bowl. Uh, So usually by the end of February, we start to see a pretty precipitous increase in listings, and then, it gets even stronger into March and April and May. Anyway, thank you for listening. I appreciate